something fantastic happens every single point. And that's why it's really, really hard to take your eyes off the competition.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Sports and Shenanigans, where women's sports and pop culture collide. I'm your host, Jillian Carroll Letrinko. We're live on the KCSN Podcast Network. Of course, we're brought to you by HERco, a women-owned sports gear, sports streetwear company that if you haven't checked out HERco, you're missing out, so go check it out. I am thrilled because on the heels of an incredible inaugural all-star match for the Pro Volleyball Federation, we actually are joined by CEO of the Pro Volleyball Federation herself. Jen Spicher is in the house. Jen, welcome in. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Jillian, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to celebrate everything that we experienced over the weekend, but also just the continued success of the league. So let's go back about a year and a half ago when Pro Volleyball Federation had its inaugural season. So this was 2024, correct? Walk me through kind of that first season and what are some of the goals of the league in year one and now year two?
So year one was all about, getting started. We had 7 teams. We started our first match was January 24th. We had training camp in the beginning of January and 3 weeks of that. 7 teams across the league. We played 24 matches. Each team played 24 matches, 12 home and 12 away. And then it culminated in our championship match for $1 million, which happened on May 18th in Omaha. And we delivered $1 million check to the winning team. And, not the owners, but the players. The players got to divide that. And the players got to decide, were able to decide, how much they got, how much a practice player got, how much an injured reserve player got. And so it was up to them to kind of divvy up that money.
Okay, that's incredible. Putting that opportunity and that power, if you will, within the players. Is that something that's important to you in this league, kind of instilling the power within the players?
Yeah, this is a league for them. They are the product and they're doing a fantastic job showing it off. So, the other thing that we did in our first year is we averaged over 4,600 people in attendance. And 33% of our matches were on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night because of some scheduling conflicts. This year, only 8% of our matches are on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night. So that's a really big win for us.
Yeah, that's incredible. And obviously the momentum has been building from year one, successful, of course, year 2. What have you added this year and how's it going so far?
We've added an expansion team in the Indy Ignite, which is where we help our all-star game, as you know. They are killing it. They crushed it in their very first game. They sold out the Fisher Center, which is about 7,000 people. They're doing really, really well. They've got a big team of rookies, and they're really gelling nicely under Coach George Padgett. We've gone from 10 national linear broadcasts to 45 national broadcasts. We had CBS Sports Network last year. We've added Fox Sports 1 and 2 and Roku, as well as Volleyball World TV. So we're on internationally as well, streaming all of our matches internationally. And as you know, we were just on CBS, not CBS Sports Network, but CBS on Saturday to host our All-Star game, which couldn't have been any bigger a success than it was.
Yeah, it was incredible. I have to show this off real quick because I got the chance to experience this All-Star event, and it was incredible. I think I said something about just top-notch from the crowd to the performance. I mean, these athletes are incredible. Walk me through how these players were selected to play in this All-Star match.
Well, the first thing we did was had a fan vote, right? And then we had coaches vote, and then we had our league staff, our volleyball operations staff. I have 3 people on my staff that know more about volleyball, or should I say forgotten more about volleyball than I'll ever know. And so they doled through a number of statistics and, came up with the group that we ultimately selected. And so, they came out and they showed up and showed out and played really hard. And, all-star games are always a bit risky because you don't want anybody to get hurt, number one, right? Number 2, nobody did get hurt. So that's great. And they really played hard. I mean, the defense, the blocking, the skill that they showed on the court, I think was tremendous.
Yeah. And for a casual volleyball fan myself, I couldn't take my eyes off the court. It was incredible. But aside from the actual minutes of play, you guys put on a huge production. Jalen Rose and Sean Johnson East were in the house. Sheldon Day of the NFL, who's an Indy native, in the house. You had drummers, you had dancers. I mean, it was a full-on production.
It was, and we wanted it to be a fun fan experience, not only for the fans that were in the arena, but also for the viewers that were watching from their homes. It's all about this volleyball is, as you know, Jillian, something fantastic happens every single point. And that's why it's really, really hard to take your eyes off the competition. Yeah. And I think we showed that on Saturday. I know we do.
It was absolutely electric. Let's talk about your athletes because they're dynamic, they're explosive. What is the makeup, would you say, of the league? National, international, age-wise? Talk about your players.
So our average age is 25. We only allow 3 international players per team because we want this to be a league for, Americans, U.S. citizens, which also includes, as you know, Puerto Rico. So we have a number of Puerto Rico players, but they're also U.S. citizens, so they're allowed to play and not be counted as international. But we have a lot of rising stars. We have a lot of NCAA rookies that have come in, and 4 of them were on the court on Saturday. These kids coming out, these athletes, these female athletes coming out of college are really good. Yeah. And they're coming off a full NCAA season, and they're showcasing their talents, and they're winning starting spots.
Yeah. Yeah, I was chatting with one of your staff members, Ryan, who pointed out something so cool to me. He said, as a sports fan himself, he's kind of excited about the fact that athletes that are coming in are almost that second generation of professional athletes. So you have athletes in the league whose parents were, volleyball players, track runners, basketball players. How cool is that? Just
a lot of football players.
A lot of football players.
Monica Stone's dad, Ron, played in the NFL. My dad played in the NFL, won a Super Bowl. Tori Stringer, Trent Dilfer's daughter, he won a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of Leah Edmonds' dad played in the NFL and now coaches at Kentucky. There's a lot of lineage there.
Yeah, it's just something so cool as a sports fan in general. I think that's so cool to watch and just know that the opportunity is now more vast than ever. And speaking about that, your league in year 2, what are you, week 8, I think 7 or 8?
We're into week 8.
Okay. Thriving. You mentioned attendance. You mentioned the crowds. Just talk a little bit about what is needed to continue that growth. Is it broadcast? Is it social media? What is needed just to continue to grow this league?
Well, I think, continuing to fill the stands, right? We're up 20% in attendance year over year. In addition, as I mentioned, we're up 4 times in the national broadcast that we're putting on TV. I think continuing to get that coverage is important, to continuing to get sponsorship dollars in, not just at the team level, but at the league level is important to continue to maintain sustainability. We're going to add a couple of teams next year for sure, one for sure in Dallas. And we're excited about our expansion and growth opportunity in years to come. But we want to also be very mindful not to grow too fast. Mm-hmm. Right? And keep the talent and the quality of talent very high. There's a number of players, unfortunately, that we don't have room for. A number of international players that want to come and play in the United States of America. And because we're limiting it to 3, which I think is the league feels is really strongly that that's the right thing to do for our American players and U.S. citizens is that's there. The opportunity for these athletes to play in the United States in front of their family and friends is now possible. And that's the most exciting thing.
Yeah, and it's amazing to hear the expansion side. You got Dallas next year. What do you think about, is there potential for conferences eventually?
I think eventually we'll get there. Yeah, when we have, 12 or more teams, I think we'll definitely get there. We think, playing 28 matches is it's a toll, but it's also real pro volleyball, right? It's a real league. It lasts, 5.5, 6 months. This year we started training camp on December 1st, gave them a little bit more time to gel. And then our first matches were January 9th. So a full, couple of weeks ahead of where we were last year. In addition, we're going to have our finals on May 9th and 11th. May 9th will be the semis, and then May 11th will be the championship match. And, in years to come, I'd like to lengthen the playoff if we can. But I don't know that volleyball fans know this, Jillian. We're kind of, wedged in between the NCAA season, which doesn't end until the 15th of December. And we have to follow the FIVB is the governing body for volleyball. And we need to be done by May 15th, or they will not approve us to play. So we are kind of wedged in there. And, we want to be very mindful that we make sure that our athletes have enough rest during the season so that they're not coming to the end of the season and they're burnt out or worn out.
Sure.
So we have to be very mindful of that. We listen to them. We listen to what they're telling us about, is this too much? Is this not enough? And make decisions based on some of their feedback, and the coaches too.
Sure. And you bring me to my next point. Just talk a little bit about your coaching staffs across the 18s.
So we were very mindful to get some top coaches. They came out of the NCAA. We have Olympians. Kayla Banworth was on Olympics team. Taiba Hanif Park, as you know, won 3 Olympics and has just been named to the USA Volleyball next cycle for the women's national team. She's very excited about that. Our coaching staffs are very important to us, and we listen again to what they have to say. So we have, I think, 4 women now. We have 4 women coaches, I think, which I think is important as well for a women's professional sports league.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, up until this year, there was no female that had won the NCAA championship up until this year when Katie Schumacher-Colley won it.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to continue that trend.
And isn't that so cool to see that happening? I'm of the mindset, if young girls see it, they can believe that they can do it. A former female, collegiate athlete yourself, how much does it mean to you to see this league? I know that you have the personality that you're not content just yet. Yeah, it's amazing, but you want to get better and better and better every year. But how cool is it to know that this is the opportunity that you're providing for female athletes coming out of school?
Well, my team is amazing, at the league level and at the board level, and we're doing it together. It isn't just me. I have a truck load of people behind me that are helping us to put this together, and they have worked tirelessly, particularly on this all-star game. I don't know if you're aware, but we literally decided to do it about 10 weeks ago. And and we did it. It was very much like the live draft. We did our draft live back on November. I think it was the Monday before Thanksgiving. And we put the press out there, the press release that we were doing a draft, and we were telling people where, that it was going to be on this date. And all social media was like, where can I watch it live? Where can I watch it live? And my team was like, well, we're not doing this live. And I'm like, oh, don't you think we could though? And they were like, oh gosh, no, we have 3 weeks to do this. And I said, come on guys, let's pull together. Let's do it. And we did it. And it was a huge success. A lot of people watched, got a lot of social off of it. And, of the 40 women we drafted, 37 of them showed up to training camp. That just tells you the only other opportunity they have is to go to Europe.
Okay.
And so, the first draft that we did, which was last December, 23, of the 35 women we drafted, 30 of them showed up to training camp. And before we did that draft, every single one of them, the only opportunity was to go to Europe. So we're pretty proud of what we've built for them, for the athletes that are staying home and playing in front of family and friends.
Yeah, and along with that, I feel like you're offering such an incredible opportunity for the fans, for generations of, the next talented athletes. Maybe it's not volleyball that they're playing, but maybe it's a little girl who sees, oh, there's professional athletes that are women. I'm going to go and do this. Talk a little bit about your fan base, because they are loyal. I found that out this weekend. They're loyal.
Volleyball fans are fierce. Right? They're like Philadelphia Eagles fans. They're
Oh,
right?
too
They're
soon,
fierce.
Jen. I'm a Chiefs fan. Too soon.
Sorry, Hud. They know volleyball, and you're not going to get anything over on them, and I'm not trying to, right? I'm just trying to put the best product on the floor so they can enjoy it. But the very first match we had in Omaha, not only were there 11,500 people in the stands, but there were over 18,000 people watching it on the YouTube stream.
Oh.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to this movement of viewership of women's sports, basketball, volleyball, soccer. It is not a moment. I truly believe this is just the start of something massive. And again, we talked a little bit about your viewership, your in attendance, numbers are fantastic. What can we continue to do? I know I've asked you this directly. What can our fans do? What can our media do?
Continue to invest in our sport, in our league, continue to buy tickets, to continue to fill the stands, continue to watch the matches, stream the matches if you can't, watch them back. All of that helps.
Yeah. And I had a moment with in the post game with some of your athletes who are absolutely incredible. I want to shout out Alicia Glass-Childress. Holy smokes. Dynamic, athletic, but so intelligent. And she mentioned, tell the story of our athletes. Tell the story of who we are, the sacrifices we made, our journeys to get here.
Yeah.
And there's just something so true that the product of women's sports, whether it be basketball, soccer, volleyball, the minute it gets seen by fans, they get addicted. They get, they are fans immediately. They want more of that. So how would you kind of approach that? And in regard to celebrating your athletes, how would you say, what can we be doing for our athletes and our fans to continue this momentum?
We just need to tell the better stories, right? Like Alicia's a mother of 3. I'm not sure everybody knows that, but she left last Sunday and was on the road all week, came to the All-Star game, didn't necessarily have to, showed up, showed out, and then went home. She was gone from her kids for a week. I mean, that's a story that, tears at my heart because her kids are young. I think there's 3 under 10 and my kids are both, off the payroll or out of the house, I should say. One's off the payroll, one's still on, but, that's a sacrifice that she makes. All of these ladies make a sacrifice they're not necessarily playing in their hometown. Our original goal was to have them playing in their hometown. And if you look at the rosters from year 1 to year 2, we kind of allowed a full-on free agency. Number 1, we had a new team coming in Indianapolis, but we also wanted the athletes to be able to reset and play where was close to home.
Yeah.
And so many of these women did. They did just that. I mean, there's a roster of Indiana Ignite, the Indy Ignite. Most of those players either are from Indiana or played at Purdue.
Wow.
Look at the Omaha team.
Mm-hmm.
Many of those players played either for Nebraska or Creighton. And I understand that helps bring the local fans in to sell tickets. And that's exactly what we want to do. I expect when Dallas, starts to build their roster, they'll look to bring, homies home.
Yeah.
And we want them to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The whole, bread and butter of why we do what we do.
Yeah. And you named a few, but I just want to shout out all the teams: Atlanta Vibe, Columbus Fury, Grand Rapids Rise, Indy Ignite, Omaha Supernovas, Orlando Valkyries, San Diego Mojo, and Vegas Thrill. So again, 8 teams in this league. You're about week 8 right now. And you mentioned playoffs are in May. Is that correct?
May 9th is semifinals. We'll have 2 semifinal matches, both on CBS Sports Network. And then May 11th, Sunday afternoon, Mother's Day, we'll have the championship match for $1 million. I think first serve is at 3:30, but it might be 4:30.
And I'm so curious, where does the $1 million come from?
Investors.
Nice.
Sponsorship.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, as you can see, this league is thriving. The players are incredible people, dynamic athletes, and your leadership and your whole team, everybody who I got to meet this weekend, absolutely amazing, top notch. There is nowhere but up to go for the Pro Volleyball Federation. Jen Spicher, CEO, spending some time with us today. Jen, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate what you're doing for women's sports as well.
Thank you, Jillian, so much for having me. It was great to host you this weekend. So glad you could make it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was definitely a weekend to remember. Inaugural All-Star game went off without a hitch. It was incredible. And who knows, maybe I'll be at the next one. I'd love it.
Just come to the championships.
I think that's got to be next on my calendar. Yeah. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. Keep up the great work and just continue to, get the mission and the word out. Women's sports is here to stay, and Pro Volleyball Federation is leading the way. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jillian. Have a good day.
Yep, guys, this was Sports and Shenanigans. Jen Spicher, CEO of the Pro Volleyball Federation. Check them out. If you haven't pulled up to a game yet, you're missing out. Catch us next week for more right here on the KC Sports Network.